Black-eyed kids. Okay, let me start off this video with my favorite cryptid of all time, black-eyed kids. They are an idiosyncratic phenomenon involving eerie kids with ghostly white pale skin and pitch black eyes, and are usually clothed in like old-timey clothes. I guess that's how I would describe it. The kids are roughly aged around 6 through 16 years old, or at least the people who have seen them think so. When they appear, they usually ask for help, or to be let in at the location you're at, like at your house or car. The thing is that they have to be invited to come in. They can't just walk in or force their way in. People have speculated that they are vampires. Some say that they are young men in black, due to some sightings of the BEKs also having men in black encounters right after. Some also say they are human/alien hybrids. I don't really know what they are in my opinion. To me, they're very interesting. The first ever reported sighting of the black-eyed kids were from a Texas news reporter named Brian Bethel in 1996. He claims to have encountered 2 BEKs, or black-eyed kids for short, in Abilene, Texas. He also claimed that a different person had a similar encounter in Portland, Oregon. So this was the first time BEKs were ever reported, but after that report came out, more people started claiming that they saw some too, way before Brian did. So yeah, people were also jumping on this for some clout, I would assume. Anyways, if you want a tad bit more in depth, we did have a podcast episode on this. So yeah, if you're interested, I mean, you could check out the podcast. It is lower quality because it was in an earlier stage of Horror Highway, so we didn't have the best equipment. So yeah, if you're interested, check it out. If not, then I don't blame you either. Duendes. Duendes are mythical creatures found in Spanish-speaking folklore. Other names for them are aluxes or chaneques, known for their small stature and mischievous nature, typically standing no taller than a human child. They are depicted with human-like features, pointy ears, and often wear traditional clothing. Duendes are believed to play tricks on humans, like moving objects or causing disturbances. Sometimes some duendes are more malevolent and do have malevolent intentions. They are associated with natural settings, such as forests or caves, and can be found in various cultural variations across Spanish-speaking regions, and even across the whole world basically. They're basically elves, but a different name obviously because this is more catered towards Spanish-speaking areas/cultures. There's no scientific evidence to confirm the existence of duendes, making them enduring figures in cultural folklore. They are similar to elves, like I said, although I think they have some differences, which makes me put them separately when talking about them. But if you're Hispanic, you definitely know about these guys, and have seen that video of the kids playing soccer, and then a quote-unquote duende runs behind them.
Contra el de Atlético de Madrid. ¿Para qué lo avientas? ¿Qué es eso? ¡Ve, vamos! ¿Lo viste? Sí, ¿lo
Goatman. It is a humanoid creature typically associated with Texas, Louisiana, and Maryland. It is usually described as a 7-foot-tall creature, large horns, and sharp claws. It is a hybrid creature, part man, part goat. Chupacabra versus Goatman. There is a bridge in Denton, Texas, which is later on in the video, known as Goatman's Bridge, and I'll just go into its lore in that section of the video. But from what I understand, the Goatman in Texas is a little different from every other Goatman. So yeah, like I said, I'll go into depth over there. Lake Worth Monster. The Lake Worth Monster is a satyr-like monster that apparently terrorized the people of the city of Lake Worth, Texas, in July of 1969. This is a satyr, by the way, in case you want to know what it is. Kind of like a goat man, but yeah. Multiple reported sightings of the Lake Worth Monster, and so it became a phenomenon. And on October of 1969, a man named Alid Plaster took this photograph of the Lake Worth Monster, and this is the only photographic evidence of the creature. We actually did this on our podcast, the Horror Highway podcast. Hey, what's up guys, it's Aris, one half of the Horror Highway, and welcome to the Darkest Texas Iceberg. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the rest of the series. We're only 4 episodes deep so far, but I mean, we have every other state and US territory. So yeah, check it out. Oh, and please let me know what state I should do next. I don't want to pick myself. I'd rather have some of the commenters tell me. That way it's more community involvement. Chupacabra. Translated directly to English, the name is goatsucker, and it attacks livestock, which is why it's called chupacabra. It also attacks chickens, goats, and other farm animals / pets. And it's sighted all over Mexico and America. First known sighting was March 1995. And with all the sightings, there's like region-specific chupacabras. I don't know, like the first one looked like a dog with mange, but some other versions of the chupacabra look more alien-like and reptilian. I don't know. This is a pretty popular cryptid, so I don't think I'll go too in-depth into it. So let's just get on with the next one. The Elmendorf Beast. So this one kind of goes hand in hand with the chupacabra entry. So in August 2004, a believed chupacabra was shot 3 times by a local farmer after it attacked multiple livestock in the area. After it was grabbed and taken to be examined, experts in the San Antonio Zoo thought it was a Zolo, or a Mexican hairless dog. Such a cool dog. I wish I owned one, maybe in the future. It was then later taken to the University of California and DNA samples were gathered, and it was confirmed to be a coyote. Big Bird. Big Bird is the name of a cryptid, not the Sesame Street one. This cryptid flew over Rio Grande Valley area of South Texas in 1976. It was first seen on January 1st. Someone named Tracy Lawson and their cousin, Jackie Davis, saw Big Bird while they were playing outside. They said it was 5 feet tall and had dark red eyes, bald head, and a gorilla-like face, but with a long beak. Another sighting in January 7th by a policeman named Arturo Padilla, and the final sighting was on January 14th by Armando Grimaldo. Apparently this encounter, the creature grabbed him and tore his shirt. Its description was the same, but this time Big Bird had no beak. So the dude got grabbed. I don't know how true this is. Maybe it was just like hallucinations or something, or mass panic. But if the dude got grabbed, I don't know what to make of it. Frank Shaw's gargoyle. So in 1986, a NASA archivist at the Houston Johnson Space Center named Frank Shaw claimed to have an encounter with a creature that looked like a gargoyle. It had jet black wings, and information about his encounter is pretty sparse until 2004. In 2004, his daughter named Desiree would quote-unquote reveal what happened. Her father returned home late. This was not of concern because he usually came back late, but the look on his face is what alerted both her and her mother. While they comforted him, he revealed what he saw. He said he saw a ghastly black gargoyle-like figure perched on top of the Space Center's building while he was going to his car in the parking lot. Dominex, pseudo-goat. This creature was only ever seen once in the town of Fredericksburg, Texas. A Comanche woman came into town in the 1850s, and she had this creature with her. It was about the size of a cat, had white fur, its horns were rose-colored, but instead of hooves like a normal goat, it had animal-like claws. The citizens of the town offered to buy the creature from her, but she refused, and the goat was never seen again. Or whatever it is. Men in Black. Commonly abbreviated as MIB, men dressed in black suits, sometimes reported also wearing black Kevlar and black helmets over the suits. They threaten UFO/alien witnesses into silence. They also harass witnesses to other paranormal events to keep them quiet about what they have experienced or saw. There's also some reports that they also guard private areas in the Appalachian Mountains. These, I guess, cryptids/aliens, I don't know what they are, I don't think anyone actually does, if they're not human, are seen all over the United States. Some of the explanations are that they are cyborgs, demons, aliens, and even though it's not really an explanation, like I said in the Black Eyed Kids entry, they are linked to them. But the most realistic explanation is that they are government agents and are some sort of damage control for them. La Lechuza. So it translates to the owl. I'm also currently working on a video on this cryptid, so I don't want to go too in depth here, but it is basically a witch that was murdered and was reborn and can now transform into an owl-like creature. This urban legend is pretty popular in Mexico and Texas, so yeah, hopefully I have this video out soon. It was supposed to go up last month, but I had a major exam, a bunch of tests, and a project due that week that I was planning on uploading it, so I didn't have much time. Anyway, sorry. Beast of Bears. The Beast of Bears is a cryptid found in southern Texas, Florida, and mayhaps Arkansas. It resembles a large bear, but with many scars and missing patches of fur. It's mostly seen around swamps and deep in the woods. It is also described as having a strong pungent smell of alcohol and rotten eggs. The first sighting of Beasts of Bears was on October 12, 1973, at a camping spot near a town of Alice, Texas. Since then, over 31 sightings have been made of the creature, with the most recent of which being on May 1st, 2012, in a backyard outside of Crestview, Florida. Now this cryptid, or multiple cryptids, are probably just exaggerated, and people probably just saw a normal-sized bear with scars and stuff, etc. Quetzalcoatlus. So this dinosaur, well, I guess cryptid nowadays, I don't know, is said to be spotted in recent years. And by I mean recent, I mean from at least 1976 to 2001. It was sighted all over the United States, and there has been 2 sightings of this dinosaur/cryptid in Texas in 1976 and in 1982. Bigfoot. This is the most popular cryptid in America. According to the Bigfoot Research Organization, Texas ranks as 7th in sightings of Bigfoot, with 254 sightings, usually around the east of Texas with the Arkansas and Louisiana borders. Bigfoot/Sasquatches are described to be large, ape-like being, standing around 7 to 10 feet tall, with shaggy dark fur. Witnesses report a human-like face with deep-set eyes, long dexterous fingers, and obviously, as the name suggests, big feet. Bigfoot is known for its elusive nature, usually seen walking upright in remote wooded areas. Despite numerous sightings and footprints, its existence remains unproven, making it a subject of folklore and cryptozoology investigations, even kind of by us. We have, like, I guess quote-unquote explored areas, but not like explored, but like just gone over there. Omar already did a Bigfoot on Virginia's darkest iceberg. Check that video out, and while you're at it, maybe the whole series. Layer 2. The Rockwall. The Rockwall in Texas refers to a mysterious and controversial geological formation found in the city of Rockwall, just east of Dallas. It is commonly known as Rockwall County Mystery Wall, or simply the Rockwall. The structure consists of a long, continuous wall-like feature buried underground. The Rockwall was discovered in the late 19th century, when residents and early settlers began to dig wells in the area. They encountered a rock formation that appeared to be a man-made wall, leading to speculation about its origin and purpose. The structure is said to be composed of large, regularly shaped blocks of sandstone, forming a wall that extends for several miles underground. Numerous theories and speculations have been proposed regarding the Rockwall's origin. Some suggest that it is a remnant of an ancient civilization, or an ancient fortification wall, while others attribute it to natural geological processes. Skeptics argue that the irregularity of the blocks is likely a result of natural fracture patterns in the rock rather than human construction. So I actually didn't know about this and only added it to this iceberg after one of our frequent commenters. Let me shout him out real quick. Shout out to Kinosabe for, mentioning this. I didn't know about it, so now it's on the iceberg. Shout out to him. The Abandoned Zoo. So this zoo is located in Cisco, Texas. While it isn't too scary, nor does it have any paranormal things in it, it does have some true crime aspects to it. This zoo was built around the 1920s, and a deer was eventually donated to the zoo, but it ended up dying. And also around the same time, a bear died because it was poisoned, and that crime was never solved. After those issues, the zoo eventually shut down, and in 2021, a nonprofit called Students, Athletics, Family, and Education, or SAFE for short, got permission to overhaul the area. They eventually turned it into a hiking trail. And like I said, it isn't too scary, but I just thought it was a really cool place in Texas, and I would like to visit this place, so I decided to add it to the iceberg. The Otine Swamp Thing. In the Palmetto State Park, that's the home of this cryptid, named after the town closest to it, and it's just another Bigfoot that has a specific name to it. Caddo Critter. It's another Bigfoot type creature, which was spotted around the town of Caddo, Texas. A ranger claimed to have seen the creature and shot at it about 10 times with a handgun. A small boy also claimed to have seen it along the shores of Caddo Lake while on a fishing trip. So yeah, another Bigfoot that has a specific name to it. The Caddo Lake Monster. Another cryptid located in the Caddo Lake on the border of Texas and Louisiana. It is apparently 18 to 20 feet long. The first man who reported it claimed he is a reliable source because he doesn't drink and has pretty sharp senses. He says he was on the lake with other fishermen on the south shore of Caddo Lake when they saw it. A dark-colored creature that they estimated to be between 18 to 20 feet, slowly moving along the surface of the water with approximately 6 inches of its back and head above the water. The Sabine Thing. So this is one of the cryptids that we have covered on our podcast. We even had a little road trip and went to Sabine, Texas for that episode. This cryptid is a Bigfoot type cryptid, just with like a name to it. It was spotted around the 2000s, and it was spotted on the border of Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. If you want more information on him, you could check out the podcast, even though it is pretty bad in quality. Old Rip. While this isn't a cryptid, nor scary, I just thought it was too interesting to not be on the iceberg. In 1897, the people of Eastland County placed a time capsule in the cornerstone of the new county courthouse. Inside the box was a horny toad. As time passed and the courthouse needed replacing, the county tore it down to make way for a new one in 1928. The story goes that when the time capsule was opened, the horny toad was still alive, but covered in dust. I'm not sure how true this is, but it was just really interesting when I first found out about it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre House. So this is kind of quick. The character of Leatherface and minor story details were said to be inspired by murderer Ed Gein, but the story is mostly fictional, and I only really have this as an entry because Texas is in the name of the story, and the house is located in Kingsland, Texas, and so I just felt it belonged in this darkest Texas iceberg just because of Texas being in the name. The Wampus Cat. It is also known as the Cherokee Death Cat. It is a creature from American folklore. Most sightings describe the cryptid to be a large panther-sized cat that is capable of walking on its hind legs. It is apparently not very dangerous to humans and mostly preys on fish for their meals. The Ozark Howler. So I feel like we should do an actual entry when one of us, either Omar or I, do Arkansas, since the Ozarks are in Arkansas. This cryptid is also known to be seen in Texas, that's why it's on this iceberg. But like I said, I don't want to go in depth here because I feel this should be on the Arkansas iceberg. Hogzilla. This isn't really a cryptid, I guess, because it was proven to actually exist. I did feel I should add it to the iceberg though. This hog was spotted in Texas through Georgia, and it was apparently 12 feet long and was apparently 1,100 pounds. But it was eventually killed by a hunter in Georgia in 2005, and its confirmed length was 9 feet long, and its weight was around 800 pounds. So yeah, I guess kind of a cryptid because we didn't kill the 12 feet long one, 1,100 pounds. Layer 3. The Leland UFO Case. This occurred on November 2nd and 3rd of 1957 on the highways around a small town of Leland, Texas. Maybe a little horror highway excursion one day. Leland, which in 1957 had a population of about 10,000 and located in the west of Lubbock on a flat prairie of the Texas South Plains. It was predicted as a 200-foot long rocket that rised up from the field. It flew over the highway and it sounded loud as thunder and killed vehicle engines, and the power went out over the areas it flew over. This case is considered by UFOologists to be the most impressive in UFO history, mainly because of the large number of witnesses involved over a remotely short period of time. However, both the US Air Force and UFO skeptics have described the incident as being caused by either ball lightning or a severe electrical storm. Which, I mean, I guess kind of makes sense. I don't know. If they saw the rocket, then yeah, rocket, but if they didn't see the rocket and it was just like lightning and power going out, I could see why people think it's severe electrical storm or ball lightning. The Aurora, Texas UFO Incident. The Aurora, Texas UFO incident is a famous and controversial event that allegedly took place in the small town of Aurora, Texas on April 17th, 1897. According to reports from that time, a mysterious flying object, described as an airship, crashed in the town, resulting in the death of its pilot, who was said to not be of this earth. The story goes that the unidentified flying object appeared in the sky above Aurora, flying erratically before eventually crashing into a windmill on the property of a local judge named J.S. Proctor. The crash reportedly caused an explosion that scattered debris across the area. Among the wreckage, townspeople claim to have discovered the remains of the pilot, who was described as not of this world. They allege that his being had strange features, including small, baldly disfigured body, and was given a proper burial in the local cemetery. Reports of this incident were published in the April 1897 edition of the Dallas Morning News, which further fueled interest in the case. However, over the years, the authenticity of the Aurora UFO incident has been widely debated and has become a subject of skepticism and controversy. I just don't know why no one would go to the, grave, dig up the body or anything, get DNA or something. But that might be also disrespectful. I don't know. But if we do know where the body is, or the area the body is, why not look for the body? The Stephansville, Texas UFO sighting. This UFO sighting happened in 2008 in Stephansville, Texas, obviously as the name suggests, and it's significant and well documented. On January 8th, 2008, numerous witnesses in Stephansville and the surrounding area reported a large, silent, brightly lit object in the sky. Witnesses described the object as having unusual flight patterns and varying in size, with some estimating it to be around several football fields in length. Initial explanations from the US military suggested military aircraft exercises as the cause, but those were met with skepticism. Media coverage brought widespread attention to the incident, and it received extensive coverage and interviews with witnesses. The UFO research organizations, such as Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON for short, conducted investigations, concluding that the sightings couldn't be easily explained as conventional aircraft or a natural phenomenon. The government investigated this UFO sighting, but still couldn't find anything, but there have been calls for further investigation and transparency from the US government to the US government, but they did not provide any definitive explanation for the sightings, and the case remains officially unexplained. UFO ranking. According to SatelliteInternet.com, Texas ranks last in UFO sightings in the United States, even lower than Washington, D.C. That's actually kind of insane. How does D.C. have more fucking UFO sightings than Texas? I didn't think we were last, though. I mean, the state's pretty huge, so, I figured that we'd have a lot of UFO sightings. Also, let me copy Omar on this. So, on the National UFO Reporting Center, there is 6,161 entries for UFO sightings. Also, UFO Maps is a good website if you want to see how many UFO sightings have been reported to that website. But most of those aren't really in too much detail, so they don't really, deserve a spot in the iceberg, opposed to mentioning it here. Also, sorry for not having a lot of UFO/alien stuff on this version of the iceberg. I didn't want to buy a book like I did for the Pennsylvania one, so I just did what I found on the internet. I'm sorry about that if you were interested in the alien stuff. The televangelist bomber. An unidentified bomber had been setting pipe bombs to numerous televangelists. The first bombing was on January 30th, 1990. The package was sent to Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. The church was run by Pastor John Osteen and his family. On this morning, his daughter Lisa received the package along with the rest of the mail. When she looked at the packaging, she did not think it was suspicious. When she cut open the tape of the box, it exploded. She ended up receiving third-degree burns and cuts to her right leg and abdomen. Luckily, no one else got hurt. On April 27th, same year, another similar incident occurred. A package was received by the headquarters of Pat Robertson in Virginia Beach, Virginia. A security guard, Scott Sheppers, I think that's how you say his last name, sorry if I mispronounced it, looked at the box under an x-ray machine, but did not seem to recognize the contents as a bomb. He was still cautious, but he began opening the package, and then it exploded, sending shrapnel into his flesh. He was rushed to the hospital, and Sheppers luckily survived. But if he would have been standing at a different angle, he could have easily died. So from everything I've gathered, no one luckily died from these bombings. It's still a shame that people got hurt, but luckily no one died. Layer 4. The Waco Tornado of 1953. On May 11th, 1953, a F5, which was a part of an outbreak of tornadoes from May 9th through May 11th of that year, would make landfall in Waco, Texas, being the deadliest tornado in Texas history and the 11th deadliest in US history. The winds this tornado brought destroyed 600 homes, 2,000 vehicles, and would cause 597 injuries, with a death toll of 114 people. This tornado actually ended up disproving an old myth, that being that the geography of Waco made it impossible for tornadoes to reach the town. Monkey Bridge. This bridge is located in Athens, Texas. In the 1960s, a circus train would derail and crash. The monkeys that they had in captivity then managed to escape, and it is said that the monkeys decided to kill the circus owners. Oh, if I'm being honest, I don't really blame the monkeys. I wouldn't want to be kept like that, especially in the 1960s, bro. Fuck no. Then the monkeys that survived the crash escaped into the forest. It is said that the people who died in the crash and that were killed by the monkeys still haunt the area of West College Street. Fuller Park. So this entry goes hand in hand with the last one I just did, the Monkey Bridge one. So the legend of those monkeys then go on to being captured by Medford Fuller and kept in giant cages at Fuller Park. It is said that he did unspeakable things to the monkeys and performed creepy rituals to them. The park is still there, but it's overgrown. If anyone wants to go check out the area. This isn't paranormal, I guess. When I looked into it, it didn't really talk about ghosts, but I mean, unless there's like monkey ghosts, I don't know. But I just thought that I should add it on here because it goes hand in hand with the Monkey Bridge one. USS Lexington. This is an Essex-class aircraft carrier built during World War II for the United States Navy. It was used in the battles of the Philippine Sea, the Battle of Leyte Gulf, and as well as the, I don't know how to say this word, Google Translate.
Kwajalein
Raid. I don't think this video is the type to go into depth into it, as it's the Texas iceberg, but the USS Lexington was turned over to the city of Corpus Christi on November 26th, 1991, and then on June 15th, 1992, the ship was then donated as a museum and now operates as the USS Lexington Museum. One of the most famous ghosts on this site is a sailor dressed in uniform, helping lost guests find their way back to the deck, and another sailor in the engine room that gives lectures on how the turbines work. And when he is done, he just straight up vanishes. The director of operations of the USS Lexington says that the ghosts here never really hurt anyone, and they're more playful / hopeful rather than harmful. I guess for you workers, right? The 2021 Texas Deep Freeze. Often referred to as the Winter Storm Uri, it was a catastrophic weather event that occurred in February 2021, severely impacting the state of Texas and other parts of the central and southern United States. This event was marked by extreme cold temperatures, heavy snowfall, and freezing rain, which led to widespread power outages, water supply issues, and significant disruptions to daily lives. The deep freeze caused Texas to experience historical low temperatures, well below freezing, for an extended period of time, which the state's infrastructure was ill-prepared to handle. The Texas power grid, managed by the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT for short, faced a massive strain as electrical demand surged due to people trying to heat their homes. The surge in demand, combined with the reduction in energy supply due to frozen power generation facilities and natural gas shortages, led to blackouts and left millions of Texans without electricity during sub-freezing temperatures. The extreme cold also led to issues with the water supply as pipes froze and bursting, creating water shortages and contamination problems. Many people faced difficulties in accessing clean drinking water, and the challenges were exacerbated by a lack of preparedness and inadequate infrastructure to cope with such extreme winter weather in a state that typically experiences milder winters. The 2021 Texas Deep Freeze exposed vulnerabilities in Texas infrastructure, particularly the power grid and water supply systems, and raised questions about the state's preparedness for extreme weather events. It prompted discussions about the need for infrastructure improvements, winterization, and better emergency response protocols to ensure the resilience of Texas and other regions susceptible to severe winter weather in the future. This tragedy took the lives of over 200 people, and man, I remember it like it was yesterday. During the time period that this winter storm happened, the only reason I went to work and driving through the icy roads was because my work had power and heating. At that time, my house didn't have power for over a week, so I was excited to go to work, I guess. The Ghost Road of Saratoga, or another name for it is the Light of Saratoga. This legend is located in the Big Thicket of Southeast Texas. The folktale / story of this legend is that it is located on a dirt road, and it is a light that may appear and disappear at random during the night. The most popular story associated with this light is that a man was decapitated by a train when the Santa Fe line ran through the road in the 1900s. The man now searches for his head with a lantern throughout the night, and the lantern, as you can guess, is the light. So this light will just appear randomly throughout the night. Hurricane Ike. On the morning of September 13th, 2008, the eye of Hurricane Ike approached the upper Texas coast with a rising storm surge that began overtopping the 17-foot Galveston seawall. Even though they were advanced evacuation plans with the Texas Water / Wastewater Agency Response Network, or Texas WARN for short, they activated its 700-member utility mutual aid network and began coordinating with the State of Emergency Operations Center and the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality (TCEQ) to begin preparations and notifications to utilities to prepare for Ike on the 7th. Mary Jo Nashks, sorry if I mispronounced that name, here's Google Translate just to have it right, spokesperson for the city of Galveston, estimated that as of Friday morning, a quarter of the city's residents paid no attention to the calls to evacuate. Hurricane Ike would kill a total of 195 people in the US and cause about $37.5 billion in damage. Layer 5. The Angelina Sawmill Ghost. Again, this is another haunted, quote-unquote, location that Horror Highway explored. When we went to the Sabine Thing area, this is located in Angelina National Forest. This was creepier than the bridge, but again, we didn't see anything. This was an old town by 1928, but the only thing that kept the town going was the sawmill. The story of the ghost goes as, a woman was visiting her lover while he worked at the sawmill. She one day got too close to the sawmill and was killed by a saw, but nowadays you could still hear her screaming. And when we went to explore this area, it was in the morning, so there was no one there. Yeah, we were driving back home, so yeah, in the morning. We stopped to hike up to the sawmill because you're supposed to hike there through a hiking trail. And it's just 3 dilapidated buildings at this point. 2 of them weren't that scary. The other one was scary because it had a roof over its head and it was dark. But we didn't really see anything, so again, I don't know how true this is. The Screaming Bridge of Arlington, Texas. This is located in Arlington, Texas, and we as Horror Highway have visited this place. It was pretty cool, I guess. We do go to that park from time to time to mountain bike, just to chill. But we didn't really experience anything there though. Oh, it was also a topic on our podcast. Anyways, the story of this bridge goes on that on the night of February 4th, 1961, a car filled with 6 Arlington teenage girls plunged off a burned out wooden bridge, where then Arlington Bedford Road, now renamed as Greenbelt Road, approached the railroad tracks in far north Arlington. The tracks themselves run parallel to a drainage ditch, mistakenly reported to be a creek in various newspaper articles at the time though, which the bridge spanned. They were out joyriding after leaving a movie that evening. As the girls' car approached the crossing at approximately 45 miles per hour, the incline of Arlington Bedford Road, and the darkness just prevented them from seeing that the bridge wasn't there. And at 9:30, their vehicle left the road and impacted the other side of the ravine. The original bridge now, or the area that they plunged off of, is not there anymore, but there is another bridge that is relatively close to it, which is now known as the Screaming Bridge. And apparently, Omar and I didn't experience it. We visited it at night and we didn't hear any screaming, but apparently you could hear screaming at night. We didn't hear it though, so I don't know how true this is. The Memphis Man. This entry refers to a ghost of a man who you can see leaning against the pole light, waiting for the bus at the corner of 66th Street and Memphis Avenue. But when you get closer, the man disappears. The story goes that the man was standing on the same corner, waiting for the bus to pick him up, and when the bus finally got there, and he started to move to get in, he slipped on ice and that killed him. Now you can see him waiting there from time to time. Oh my god, bro. Imagine, I don't want to sound rude saying this, but imagine dying like that, bro. I'd be too embarrassed to even come back as a ghost. The 1947 Texas City disaster. On April 16th, 1947, in the port of Texas City, located in Galveston Bay, the French registered vessel SS Grand Camp, which was docked at the port, caused the deadliest industrial accident in U.S. history, and one of history's largest non-nuclear explosions. It all started around 8 a.m. on the Grand Camp, when smoke was seen leaving the ship quickly. A longshoreman would use 1 gallon of water and 2 fire extinguishers to try and put out the flames, but little did it do to stop the fire. Another attempt would be tried, this time, sealing all the hatches and filling the hold with steam, but it would not stop the fire either. The reason for this was because the captain did not want to use water on their cargo, which was 2,300 tons, about 2,100 metric tons, of ammonium nitrate. It was around 9:12 a.m. when the ammonium nitrate finally exploded. All crew on board were killed in this explosion, as well as a number of volunteer firefighters. In its initial explosion, everything within 2,000 feet was destroyed. It caused a 15-foot tsunami and created a shockwave that destroyed about 1,000 buildings. One of these buildings was the Monsanto Chemical Company plant, killing 145 of its 450 workers. 2 sightseeing airplanes flying nearby were blown out of the sky up to 10 miles away. Half of the windows in Galveston were shattered. The explosion blew the almost 6,350 short tons of the ship's steel in the air, some at supersonic speed, and the ship's anchor was launched across the city. But this isn't where the event ends. There was a second explosion caused by the first one. The next day, another ship, the High Flyer, was set adrift from all that happened in the first explosion, and ended up resting dangerously close to the docks it crashed into, SS Wilson B. Keene, where the crew of the Wilson noticed it was on fire and tried to warn port authorities. But it would take them a while to respond, and when they did, they realized they would have another explosion on their hands. They tried to get away from the docks, and got on tugboats to pull the ship away from cutting it, and after cutting it from its anchor, but the ship wouldn't move, but the ship would explode, killing 2 people in that explosion. But since everyone had already evacuated, and the initial explosion destroyed so much, the second explosion had light damage, even though witnesses say the explosion was more powerful than the first one. This event caused the loss of 581 lives. 405 were identified, and 63 have never been identified. More than 5,000 people were injured, and cost $100 million worth of property damage. The anchor of the Grand Camp can be visited at the Memorial Park. The Marfa Lights. They are also known as the Marfa Ghost Lights. They have been seen near the US Route 67 on Mitchell Flat East, or Marfa, Texas. I had a really hard time thinking on where to put this in our subcategories, but I think it belongs under paranormal rather than alien. Some people do think it's more extraterrestrial / alien in nature rather than paranormal, but I think paranormal is where I think it falls in. The first ever recorded entry about the Marfa Lights comes from 1883, when a young cowhand named Robert Reed Ellison saw a flickering light while he was driving cattle through the Paisano Pass. He thought it could be a campfire of the Apache. Some other settlers told them that they commonly saw the lights as well. They then decided to investigate in the direction of the lights, and when they got there was no ashes of the fire. So, yeah, it wasn't the Apache, or at least it wasn't a campfire. With many other reports of the lights throughout the years, some people think it's just other car lights in the horizon. Personally, I don't know what it is. I do want to go and see if Omar and I could see them. I think it'd be really cool. And I think after we do see them, I could decide whether it's extraterrestrial or paranormal. To me, for now, I think it's paranormal because it's a reoccurring phenomenon rather than a one-time thing or like a thing that happened only like in this month or whatever. Goatman's Bridge. Goatman's Bridge is located in Denton, Texas, and it is also known as the Old Alton Bridge. It has stood since 1884, and back then till 2001, it was used for traffic. It is said to be haunted by a goat man. The belief is based on the legend of a black goat farmer named Oscar Washburn, who is said to have moved in with his family to a residence just north of the bridge. A few years later, Washburn, having become known as a dependable and honest businessman, was dubbed the Goat Man by locals, and a sign began being displayed on Alton Bridge reading, "This way to the Goat Man." But the success of a black man was still unwelcome by many, and in August 1938, KKK members and the local government crossed the bridge and kidnapped Washburn from his family. They hung him on Old Alton Bridge and after securing the noose around his neck, threw him over the side. When they looked down to see if he had died, the noose was empty, and in a panic, the members of the KKK returned to his family's house and slaughtered his wife and children. Now, locals warn if you cross the bridge at night without headlights, as the KKK members did, you will be met on the other side by the Goat Man. Ghostly figures and strange lights are said to appear in the surrounding woods, as well as reports of visitors being touched, grabbed, and having rocks thrown at them. So, this is actually an area where Omar and I and another friend, who's not really connected to the horror highway, went to and explored. We did it on Halloween though, so there was a lot of people there and not a lot of stuff happened. And we did not experience anything, but cars aren't allowed to hop on the bridge anymore, so you can't really do that part of the legend to see if the Goatman spirit is actually true or not. And like I said in the Goatman entry, this isn't your quote-unquote average Goatman, because this is more of a ghost rather than a cryptid. The Anson Lights. This entry refers to an unexplainable phenomenon of light just outside of Abilene, Texas, or in the town of Anson. On any clear night, drive east on US 180 until you reach a cemetery, take a right on the country road near the cemetery, and drive until you reach a crossroad. Turn back and face the way you came. Turn off your engine and flash your headlights 3 times, and apparently a strange glowing light will appear in the distance where there wasn't any before. The legend slash story slash folktale, it's all the same thing, are caused by the ghost of a woman who lived in Anson in the 1800s. She's forever wandering the area looking for her sons. They had lived together on the road where the lights now appear. The 3 boys were sent to chop wood one night and were told that if they encountered any trouble, they should flash their lantern 3 times. They did so, but by the time their mother managed to get to where they were, to find out what the danger in question was, all 3 boys had been killed. So now when visitors flash their car lights, the woman's spirit emerges, carrying her own lantern, hoping to find her boys. Hopefully, if Omar and I ever go to Abilene, Texas, both for Black Eyed Kids, and I guess now this, we do this and see if we can see the light. The Delta Airlines Flight 191. This Lockheed L-1011 was a plane that would travel from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Los Angeles, with an immediate stop at the DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. It was on a stormy day over the airport that this place would have its actual final flight. On August 2nd, 1985, on approach to land on runway 17L. The name would be changed to 17C later. It's believed that when approaching the runway at about 100 feet in the air, with their runway gear down, the plane would experience a microburst, which is the downburst of a small scale, and a downburst being a column of sinking air that, after hitting the surface, spreads out in all directions. The aircraft undershot the ground, about 1 mile short, on the runway, struck a car, and collided with 2 water tanks. Witnesses say a fire started on the left wing root of the plane, and it would soon move into the cabin. This part gets graphic. I don't know if I want to say this in the video, but basically, the people that died either died because they unbuckled their belts and were sucked out of the plane, or saw people get sucked out and stayed buckled, but were doused by jet fuel and were burned to death. Also, the car the plane hit, the plane would catch fire and burn, and a total of 137 people died, and 25 would be injured from this crash. The San Antonio Ghost Tracks. The legend takes place during the 1930s or 1940s, depending on who you ask. And according to this variation, a bus was carrying students home from school and was heading towards the intersection, Villamain and Shane. When they came to the railroad tracks, the bus stalled out, and the bus driver then noticed a train barreling down on them. The bus driver then rushed to get the children off the bus, but there wasn't enough time, and the train crashed into the bus, killing 10 of the students, and the bus driver as well. It is said that to this day, if anyone parks their car on or near the railroad tracks on Shane Road, ghostly children will push the vehicle to safety, as they are determined to make sure that no one meets the same gruesome fate that they suffered. Layer 6. New London School Explosion. On March 18th, 1937, a natural gas leak caused an explosion in the London school at New London, Texas. The cause of this gas seems to have been a choice made by the school in order to save money, as the school was suffering, at least money-wise, since this was during the Great Depression. Early in 1937, the school board cancelled the natural gas contract and had plumbers install a tap into Parade Gasoline Company's residue gas line to save money. This gas, being odorless and colorless, was hard to detect. That being said, there were signs that the gas had been building up as students had been complaining about headaches, a symptom of being near too much natural gas, but of course, the school ignored that. Another reason it might be hard to detect was that the gas was coming in an already steamy stream, but rather in changing quantities at the slowest from day to day and the fastest from hour to hour. Gas had been leaking from the residue line tap and built up inside the enclosed crawl space that ran the entire 253-foot length of the main school building's facade. At 3:17 p.m. on March 18, 1937, the instructor of manual training would turn on an electric sander. It's believed the switch of the sander created the spark that caused the explosion. The explosion was so powerful, witnesses say that they saw the roof lift up from the building and land back down. Wall-mounted lockers being shot around through the school halls. A 2-ton concrete block was thrown from the building onto a car parked 200 feet away, crushing it. The explosion was heard 4 miles away. This disaster killed an estimated 294, but the actual number isn't known, and injured at least 300 people. The 1900 Galveston Hurricane, aka the Great Galveston Flood. The hurricane would make landfall on September 8, 1900, causing a storm surge of 8 to 12 feet of water and having 145 miles per hour winds. This made the hurricane a Category 4 hurricane. The hurricane caused great loss of life, with the death toll being between 6,000 and 12,000 people. But the number most cited in official reports is 8,000. The 1900 Galveston hurricane took the lives of more people than the total of all those killed in every tropical cyclone to make landfall in the United States since. The Galveston hurricane of 1900 is the deadliest natural disaster to strike the United States. The storm caused about $30 million worth of damage, and actually scared many businesses away from the city after seeing the damage the hurricane had caused, hurting the city's economy even more. This hurricane also taught the city an important lesson on how important seawalls are to prevent such extensive damage. The Alamo. Remember, 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 remember. Anyways, always remember the Alamo. Remember, 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 remember. The Alamo is one of the most iconic places in Texas, and the Alamo became this iconic landmark it remains today during the Battle of the Alamo in 1836. The Alamo was held as a fortress by Texian forces for a short period of time before it was attacked by more than 1,500 Mexican soldiers, and the 189 Texans, or Texians, I think that's what they called them back then, controlling the Alamo included Davy Crockett, who fought valiantly to hold off the soldiers. In the end, all 189 Texans, or Texians, were killed, along with at least 1,600 Mexican soldiers. The desire for revenge for the battle became a rallying cry for Texians, leading to the eventual defeat of the Mexican army and the formation of the Republic of Texas. With a battle like that and many deaths, it's kinda obvious why it would be haunted. There are countless tales of apparitions of long dead soldiers, whispers and footsteps, and other unexplainable occurrences, such as a sighting of a ghostly little boy in the left upstairs window, that have been reported. Layer 7. Amber Hangerman. She was a 9-year-old girl from Arlington, Texas, who was abducted while riding her bike. Her younger brother, Ricky, had gone home without her because Amber wanted to stay in the parking lot for a while more. When he returned with his grandfather, they only found her bicycle. A neighbor who had witnessed the abduction called 911. 4 days after her abduction, around midnight, a man walking his dog discovered Amber's naked body in a creek behind the apartment complex, with severe laceration wounds to her neck. The site of the discovery was less than 5 miles from where she was abducted. Her murder still remains unsolved as of 2023. So I wanted to add this case on the iceberg because of what happened after her abduction. I don't know how to say this without sounding weird or terrible, but as sad as her abduction is, without it we wouldn't have the Amber Alert system. And sure, that system isn't perfect, but it does help in some child abduction cases. And it's used in over 31 countries across the world. So I'm sorry if I come out as insensitive, I don't mean to, but we do have the Amber Alert system because of this. The Waco Siege, also known as the Waco Standoff. It was a highly publicized confrontation between the Branch Davidians, a religious sect led by David Koresh, and federal law enforcement agencies in Waco, Texas in 1993. The siege began on February 28th and lasted for 51 days, ending on April 19, 1993. The origins of the standoff can be traced back to allegations of illegal firearm possessions and child abuse within the Branch Davidian compound, the Mount Carmel Center. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or the ATF, initiated a raid on the compound on February 28th, but the operation quickly escalated into a firefight, resulting in the deaths of 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians. This initial confrontation led to the federal government's decision to lay siege on the compound. Over the course of the siege, the FBI assumed control of the situation and attempted to negotiate a peaceful resolution, but the Branch Davidians remained holed up in their compound. The conditions inside the compound deteriorated, with power, water, and food becoming scarce, and the negotiations reached an impasse. And on April 19th, the FBI launched a final assault, which included the use of tear gas. And eventually, a fire broke out within the compound, and it quickly consumed the entire building. 76 people, including David Koresh, died in the fire, marking it one of the deadliest law enforcement actions in U.S. history. The Waco siege remains a controversial and divisive incident in American history, sparking debates about the appropriate use of force by law enforcement and religious freedoms and government overreach. The government did remain on the stance that it did not start the fire, and in 1999 it was revealed that some of the tear gas used by the FBI was flammable though. Reno, who was the person that authorized the raid, then expressed regret about actually authorizing the raid. Conscious development. Terry Hoffman was the leader of the controversial New Age group in the 1980s known as the Conscious Development of Body, Mind, and Soul, or CDBMS. This group was often referred to as a cult, and it was based in Dallas, Texas. Terry Hoffman claimed to be a spiritual leader with psychic abilities, and she attracted followers who were seeking spiritual enlightenment and personal growth. The group ended up gaining attention for its unconventional practices and beliefs, which blended elements of New Age spirituality, self-help, and psychic phenomenon. Hoffman claimed to have psychic powers and offered her followers various services, such as psychic readings, counseling, and workshops aimed at personal transformation. The cult's activities came to light when several members died under mysterious circumstances. Terry Hoffman was eventually implicated in the deaths, accused of using her influence to manipulate her followers into committing murder and word puzzle. She was charged with conspiracy to commit murder in 1989, but died by word puzzle in jail before her trial. This is another case/entry that we did cover on the Horror Highway podcast. Sorry if it gets annoying that I keep mentioning this, but yeah, we're based in Texas, so we have a decent amount of Texas stuff on the podcast. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders. This is a case that Omar decided to do a deep dive type beat on our podcast. Anyways, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, also known as the Phantom Killer case, refers to a series of unsolved murders and attacks that occurred in and around Texarkana, a city on the border of Texas and Arkansas, during 1946. The case remains one of the most infamous and enduring unsolved mysteries in American criminal history. The killings began in the spring of 1946 with the first victims, Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jane LaRae, surviving a brutal assault by a masked attacker who left them seriously injured. Over the next few months, the Phantom Killer targeted several couples parked in secluded areas, usually on weekends. The assailant killed 5 people and injured 3 others, using firearms and, in some instances, a knife. Despite extensive investigations by law enforcement and a heightened sense of fear in the community, the Phantom Killer was never captured. The case garnered significant media attention and led to a citywide panic, with many residents taking precautions and local authorities implementing additional security measures. The identity and motive of the killer remain unknown to this day. Layer 8. The Sunday Morning Slasher. Carl Eugene Watts, also known as Coral, born November 7th, 1953 in Killeen, Texas. He was a dangerous serial killer who terrorized multiple states in the 1970s and early 1980s. He targeted primarily women as his victims, often gaining access to their homes under false pretenses or through break-ins. His modus operandi was to brutally attack and murder his victims, leaving behind a trail of fear and mystery in his wake. His ability to blend into the surroundings and avoid capture for an extended period of time made him a particularly elusive figure. His victims were diverse in terms of age and background, making it challenging for law enforcement to discern a pattern. He is believed to have killed over a dozen women, but the actual number of his victims is thought to range between 14 through 100. Many of his victims were found with stab wounds or strangled to death, and his attacks were often random, without any apparent motive. The widespread geographic scope of his crimes, spanning from Michigan to Texas, further complicated the investigation and made it challenging to connect the dots in a pre-digital age, which allowed him to continue his reign of terror. It wasn't until 1982 that Carl Eugene Watts was apprehended. He was sentenced to life in prison, avoiding the death penalty by information about his crimes and cooperating with authorities. He ended up dying September 21st, 2007 in Michigan. The Angel of Death, real name Genene Jones. Again, like many of the other entries on this iceberg, we did cover it on our podcast. I'm not trying to tell you how to go listen to the podcast, but it's there. Genene Jones is a former American nurse and serial killer born on July 13th, 1950, in Texas. She became infamous for her heinous actions as a nurse operating in the 1980s. Jones worked as a licensed vocational nurse in various healthcare facilities in Texas during her time as a healthcare provider. She deliberately administered fatal doses of medications to multiple infants and children under her care. Her actions led to the deaths of several young patients, earning her the moniker, the Angel of Death. She has 2 confirmed victims, but it is thought that she has up to 60. Jones' motives for her actions remain a subject of speculation, but it is believed that she sought attention and praise for her ability to resuscitate patients, thus feeding her narcissistic tendencies. Her acts of medical malpractice and murder raised suspicions in various hospitals where she worked due to the unusually high mortality rates in her units. It was not until 1984 that she was arrested and charged with murder of 1 child. Subsequently, she was convicted of murder and sentenced to prison. The Broomstick Killer. Kenneth McDuff, also known as the Broomstick Killer, was a notorious American serial killer who terrorized Texas during the 1960s and 1990s. McDuff was initially convicted of multiple murders in the 1960s and was sentenced to death, but his sentence was commuted to life in prison in 1973 when the U.S. Supreme Court briefly invalidated the death penalty. He was released on parole in 1989 due to prison overcrowding, and soon after he resumed his reign of terror. In the early 1990s, McDuff went on a brutal killing spree, targeting young women and brutally assaulting and murdering them. His victims often suffered heinous acts of violence, making him one of the most feared and sadistic serial killers in Texas history. McDuff's ability to elude capture for several years was a source of frustration for law enforcement, as he used different aliases and evaded authorities by moving frequently. McDuff's reign of terror finally came to an end in 1992 when he was apprehended and convicted of multiple murders. He was sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection in 1998. The Candyman. Another serial killer we did do on our podcast. Again, we didn't have the best equipment back then, so the quality is pretty bad, but it is up on the podcast, so yeah. Dean Corll, also known as the Houston Mass Murderer, was a notorious serial killer who, along with 2 teenage accomplices, committed a series of gruesome murders in the early 1970s. Corll's crimes took place in Houston, Texas, and primarily targeted teenage boys. He was responsible for sexual assault, torture, and murder of at least 28 individuals, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Corll lured his victims, who were often his acquaintances or friends, with offers of money, rides, or even the promise of partying, before subjecting them to horrific acts of violence. His killings were particularly brutal, and he was known to use various methods of torture and mutilation. The exact motivations behind his crimes remain somewhat mysterious, but it is believed that a combination of sadistic desires and the assistance of his teenage accomplices, David Brooks and Wayne Hanley, contributed to his reign of terror. His quote-unquote reign of terror came to an end in 1973 when one of his accomplices, Wayne Hanley, turned against him, leading to his arrest. Shortly after this arrest, Corll was killed by Hanley during a confrontation on August 8th, 1973. The Railroad Killer. Again, sorry, but we did do this one on our podcast as well. Angel Maturino Resendiz, also known as the Killer on the Tracks, was a Mexican serial killer and drifter who terrorized the United States and Mexico in the 1990s. Resendiz was known for his transient lifestyle, hopping freight trains and evading law enforcement while committing a series of gruesome murders between 1997 and 1999. Resendiz was linked to at least 15 murders across the United States, primarily in Texas and Mexico. His victims included both men and women, and the crimes are categorized by their brutal nature, involving sexual assault and extreme violence. Resendiz's ability to move across borders and evade capture earned him the moniker Railroad Killer. Resendiz's crime spree came to an end in 1999 when he surrendered to authorities in Texas, confessing to his crimes and expressing a desire to face justice. He was subsequently convicted and sentenced to death. His case highlighted the challenges of tracking and capturing serial offenders who can easily move from one jurisdiction to another, and the importance of coordination among law enforcement agencies to bring such criminals to justice. Angel Maturino Resendiz was executed by lethal injection in 2006. The Eyeball Killer, aka Charles Frederick Albright. Other names include the Dallas Ripper and the Dallas Slasher. He was born on August 10th, 1993, in Amarillo, Texas. At age 13, he was already a petty theft and was arrested for aggravated assault. At age 15, he graduated from high school and enrolled at UNT, the University of North Texas. At age 16, he was caught by the police, and they found stolen cash, 2 handguns, and a rifle. This caused him to spend 1 year in jail. After he was released from jail, he went to Arkansas State Teachers College and majored in pre-med studies. He was found with stolen items and then expelled. He did marry his college girlfriend, and they had a daughter in 1974. His wife and him divorced. He was caught stealing hundreds of merchandise from a hardware store and received a 2-year prison sentence, but he served less than 6 months before he was released. In 1981, he was visiting one of his friends where he sexually molested their daughter. He was prosecuted and pled guilty. There's a bit more to his story, but on December 13th, 1990, he murdered a sex worker in Oak Cliff, Texas. And February 10th, 1991, he murdered another sex worker just outside of DeSoto city limits. And on March 10th, 1991, he murdered another sex worker, this time found near an elementary school. Each of his victims had their eyes removed, and on March 22nd, he was arrested on charges of murder, and on December 18th, he was found guilty. Sentenced to life without parole, Albright died at the West Texas Regional Medical Facility in Lubbock, Texas, in August 2020. The Butcher of Elmendorf. Real name, Joe Ball. Other names for him are the Alligator Man and the Bluebeard of South Texas. Born on January 7th, 1896, and died September 24th, 1938. After he was done serving in the front lines in Europe during World War I, Ball started his career as a bootlegger, providing illegal liquor to those who could pay for it. After the end of Prohibition, he opened a saloon called the Sociable Inn in Elmendorf, Texas. He built a pond that contained 6 alligators. He believed a murder conviction without a body would be impossible. He charged people to view the alligators, especially during feeding time. The food consisted mostly of live cats and dogs. After some time, women in the area began missing, including his wife. When 2 Bexar County deputy sheriffs went to question him in 1938, he pulled out a handgun and committed word puzzle. A handyman who conspired with Ball, Clifford Wheeler, admitted to helping Ball dispose of the bodies of the 2 women he had killed. Wheeler led them to the remains of Hazel Brown and Minnie Gotthard. Few written accounts from the area could verify Ball's crimes, although people do believe that Ball would feed his alligators with body parts of his victims, which also helps me believe that he thought murder conviction without a body would be impossible, because he did end up feeding said bodies to alligators. The Tourniquet Killer. Anthony Allen Shore, or another one of his monikers, is the Strangler. He was born on June 25th, 1962, in Rapid City, South Dakota. He was a notorious American serial killer who operated in the Houston, Texas area during the 1980s and the early 2000s. Shore's modus operandi involved sexually assaulting and strangling his female victims, and he derived his nickname from the use of ligatures, specifically a tourniquet or cord, to subdue and kill them. His crimes did instill fear and panic in the community, as he managed to elude capture for a long period of time. Shore's victims were primarily young women, and he was convicted of the murders of 4 individuals: Maria del Carmen Estrada, Diana Reballer, Dana Sanchez, and Laurie Lee Tremblay. He was known for his brutality and his ability to blend into society, which made him a challenging target for law enforcement. Shore was eventually apprehended in 2003 through DNA evidence and confessed to his crimes, providing details about his murders. And in 2004, He was sentenced to death for his heinous acts, and he remained on death row until his execution in 2018 in Huntsville, Texas. Hey, what's up again? It's Aris, one half of the Horror Highway. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys want me to cover a specific state next, please type it in the comments. The state with the most likes will be the one I do next. Also, if you don't mind, please like, comment, and subscribe. We want to try reaching 5,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It's currently October, so 2 months till the end of the year, and we'd really appreciate it if we do reach 5,000. Oh, also, one last thing, sorry. I know I missed some things from Pennsylvania. Sorry about that. I will try to add it when we do a